Radiation is a chemical matter that can be found naturally in the sun and artificially in places like nuclear plants and objects like X-rays, the phone, television and other things. When someone is exposed for a long time to the radiation, he can have effects like nausea, weakness, loss of hair, and decrease in the functioning of the body organs. Unfortunately also, the radiation can make malformations and changes in the DNA that can be passed to the next generations.
Uno. So after that, we can start with the top 10 and let's check the number 10.
Washington, United States. It was depopulated in 1943 along with the town of White Bluffs in order to make room for the nuclear production facility known as the Hanford site. The town was located in what is now known as the 100th sector of the site. The town was condemned by the federal government to make way for the Hanford site. Residents were given a 30-day eviction notice on March 9, 1943. Most buildings were destroyed, with the notable exception of the high school. It was used during the Second World War as the construction management office. The school still stands today, marred by its use during the years for SWAT practice, and can be seen from the Hanford tour bus operated by the US government. Now let's talk about the Hanford site, the reason of why Hanford is one of the most radiactive places in the world. The Hanford site is a mostly decommissioned nuclear production complex on the Columbia River in the U.S. state of Washington, operated by the United States federal government. Established in 1943 as part of the Manhattan Project in the town of Hanford in south-central Washington. The site was home of the Bill reactor, the first full-scale plutonium production reactor in the world. Plutonium manufactured at the site was used in the first nuclear bomb, tested at the Trinity site and in Fat Man. The bomb detonated over Nagasaki, Japan. During the Cold War, the project was expanded to include 9 nuclear reactors and 5 large plutonium processing complexes, which produced plutonium for most of the 60,000 weapons in the U.S. nuclear arsenal. Many of the ill-safety producers and waste disposal practices were inadequate, and government documents have since confirmed that Hanford's operations releases significant amounts of radioactive materials into the air and the Columbia River, which still threatens the health of residents and ecosystems. You'll ask me why this is one of the most radioactive places in the world. It is that the Italian mafia, Drangheta, uses this sea as a convenient place to dump hazardous waste, including radioactive, benefit from the provision of services. Under the assumptions of the Italian NGO Legambiente, since 1994 in the Mediterranean Sea has lost about 40 ships loaded with toxic and radioactive waste. If these statements are to create a worrying pollution in the Mediterranean basin in known amount of nuclear material, the true extent of the threat became clear that, as a result of normal wear or some other processes affecting the integrity of hundreds of barrels. For the beauty of the Mediterranean, you can easily hide the development of ecological disaster. If we are talking about this sinister business, then only the Drangheta are not limited to their own region. There are also allegations that the state ran out of Somali soil protection and water used for flooding and burial or nuclear and toxic metals, including 600 barrels of toxic and radioactive waste, as well as clinical waste. In fact, Representatives of the Environment Program of the United Nations believe that oxidation of waste drops made in the coast of Somalia during the 2004 tsunami were thrown into the sea in the 90s. The country already devastated by anarchy, and the impact of waste from its core can be as damaging or worse, like everything that has been experienced before. As additional information, a little talk about 'Ndrangheta. The 'Ndrangheta is a criminal organization in Italy centered in Calabria despite not being as famous abroad as the Sicilian Cosa Nostra and having been considered more rural compared to the Neapolitan Camorra and the Apulian Sacra Corona Unita. The 'Ndrangheta managed to become the most powerful crime syndicate of Italy in the late of 1990s and early 2000s decade. The Mayak Production Association is an industrial complex which is one of the biggest nuclear facilities in the Russian Federation. It houses plutonium production reactors and a reprocessing plant. Located 150 kilometers southeast of Ekaterinburg between the towns of Kazly and Tatish, 72 kilometers northwest of Chelyabinsk. The closest city to the nuclear complex is Ozyorsk, the central administrative territorial district. As part of the Russian nuclear weapon program, Mayak was formerly known as Chelyabinsk 40 and later as Chelyabinsk 65, after the postal code of the site. In 1957, Mayak was the site of one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, when the explosion of a poorly maintained storage tank released 50 to 100 tons of high-level radioactive waste, contaminating a huge territory in the eastern Urals and causing numerous deaths and injuries from radiation poisoning. The Soviet regime kept this accident secret for about 7 years. 6 on the 7-level Ames scale, third in severity only to disasters at Chernobyl in the Ukraine and Fukushima in Japan. Working conditions at Mayak and a lack of environmental responsibility in the past being led to additional contamination of the surroundings of the Lake District and increased severe health hazards and accidents. Some areas are still under restricted access because of radiation. In the past 45 years, about 400,000 people in the region have been irradiated in one or more of the incidents. Mayak was a target of air powers due to surveillance flight in May 1960. Located on the west coast of England, North Sellafield was originally for the production of atomic bombs, but then entered the field of trade. Since the beginning of its operations, it's been occurred hundreds of emergency situations, and two-thirds of own buildings are considered as radioactive waste. The company merges the day into the sea. About 8 million liters of waste contaminated with radiation go into the water, making the Irish Sea the most radioactive sea in the world. England is famous for its green fields and hilly landscapes, and in fact is at the heart of the industrialized countries as time establishes. However, toxic and harmful substances are object of prone accidents. On the site there are more than 40 years of supply of nuclear waste. Likely stars stored in open pools and tanks in the reservoir contains over 125,000 tons of solid materials, while an underground storage can seep into the groundwater. The winds and rain play around pollution and is available in nature. and many minor accidents have resulted in the loss of plutonium and the explosive spread of radiation. The snowy landscape is pristine and clean, but the facts to clarify the real extent of the contamination which can be found here. This area is now part of modern Kazakhstan. This land has been allocated for the project to create a Soviet atomic bomb, which looked uninhabited despite living on this area almost 700,000 people. The object was that the Soviet Union detonated its first atomic bomb and holds the record as a place with the highest concentration of nuclear explosions in the world, 456 tests in 4 years, from 1949 to 1989. Also, the tests conducted on the premises, as well as its impact in terms of radiation, and to keep it secret until the explosion in 1991. Radiation was caused. Researchers estimate that of the damage to the heart of 200,000 people. They decided to destroy people on the other side of the border to let the specter of the nuclear contamination and has hung over the heads of those who were once citizens of the USSR. In the Melissu River, where is considered by the Blacksmith Institute report in 2006 as one of the 10 most polluted cities on Earth, not by radiation bombs or power plants, otherwise just by the productions of materials needed for related processes. In that mineral area were places and the ability of production and processing of uranium and are now thrown together with 36 uranium tailings. Is the biggest on discharges as now, over 1.96 million cubic meters. The region is also characterized by seismic activity, and any violation of the location of the substances can lead to contact with the environment, or lead release into the river's water or pollution. It can be much important as it is used by hundreds of thousands of people. They cannot worry about the threat of nuclear attack, but still have a good reason to live in fear of nuclear fallout if the Earth shakes. A massive magnitude earthquake is just happened. During the earthquake, the system introduces its ground control rods within the reactor forcing it to stop. The quake also causes the collapse of some pylons to the nuclear plants was isolated from the main. This is a problem because the Chinese reactors continue to generate an amount of heat which, also way below the rated power, the first stage is still considerable. Nuclear power plants have some emergency diesel generators designed for such cases. In Fukushima, these generators were turned on properly, so that the situation was under control initially. The problem came 50 minutes later when a series of tsunamis reached the plant. Until one of them, 14 meters high, flooded basements where they were electrical generators and electrical panels middle areas. At this time, the plant was totally without power. When the nuclear fused, they released radioactive materials that went out to the outside to make the vents to relieve pressure from the reactors, causing major pollution in some parts of the plant environment. Now has begun the slow process of dismantling the plant, which will take to complete more than 30 years. One day, during a test that simulated a power failure, a sudden increase of power in the reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant produced a overheating nuclear reactor core, which ended up causing the explosion of the hydrogen accumulated inside. The amount of radioactive material released estimated was about 500 times greater than that released by the atomic bomb dropped in Hiroshima in 1945. Directly caused the death of 81 people, forced the Soviet government to the evacuation of some 175,000 people, and caused international alarm due upon detection of radioactivity in several countries in northern and central Europe. In addition to the economic consequences, the long-term effects of the accident on public health have received the attention of several studies. Also are controversial. The thousands of people affected by pollution have suffered or will suffer at some point in their life health effects. After protracted negotiations with the Ukrainian government, the international community financed the cost of decommissioning the plant, completed in December 2000. The accident occurred in Ukraine on April 26, 1986. Was the worst nuclear accident in history, being the only one who has obtained the status of level 7, highest on the INS scale.